Hey friend, Roger Christofferson here again with another first listen review. Today, I actually hesitated on whether I was going to do a video on this one, but it is Neil Young in his new, and I'm doing new in quotation marks, album called Chrome Dreams. And the reason I say in quotation marks, because I guess this was originally intended to be released back in '77, and then he chose not to do that and released a completely different album altogether. And now I have to admit, part of the reason I hesitated is because I'm kind of a casual Neil Young fan. I haven't dug into his catalog. I don't have all the extra bootlegs, and I don't, deep dive into his catalog at all. I do have, I believe, all his albums. I've listened to him over the years, played several of his songs in bands. Actually, some of his, I think he's one of the most creative musicians that came out of the 60s and 70s, and some of my favorite albums of his came from back in that time period, and that kind of lost interest with the newer stuff, quite honestly. But this one, I don't know, heard what it was about, and I'm still not sure exactly who's correct on this, because I've read a few things on it, just trying to get the backstory on it. But basically, it's a bunch of different songs he was working on between 74 and 76. A lot of them were like a one-take deal where he just walked up in the studio and recorded a whole bunch of songs in front of his fireplace, just all acoustically, and was going to release that as part of this album. And then there's some other stuff he did with a couple members of the Crazy Horse and stuff like that. So over the years, a lot of these songs have been released, and from what I can understand, anywhere from 2, 3, or 4 of them on this are previously unreleased. I'm getting contradictory information on this, so feel free to comment on this one, what you guys think. Obviously, there's people out there that know way more about this than I do, and all 3 of these answers can't be right. So either way, I just decided, maybe this would be just a better way to open up a discussion on this album instead of actually just give a review of it. Although I am going to just give my quick opinion on it. The songs are awesome. There's like classics on here that I remember hearing on the radio, Pocahontas, for instance, and I remember hearing Like a Hurricane constantly back when this song was first released. I just remember our local radio station playing this song all the time. I just remember when it first kicked in, I was like, oh cool, but I know this is going to be a long ride because it's a very long song, like 7 or 8 minutes. I don't remember exactly now, but and I always thought, when you're younger, your attention span's a little bit shorter. I just like, okay, this is going to be a long song, but I always liked this, so it was okay. But overall, every song on here is like good. It's got, but they all have very different feels. There's a lot of acoustic on this, so I think as an album, overall, it's kind of all over the place. It isn't cohesive, so maybe that's why Neil chose not to release it this way, and maybe like certain songs fit in better on other albums, which appears to have been the case. Overall, the flow of the album is like, it's all over. You get really in the mood for like a lot of acoustic. There's a lot of acoustic stuff on here, and then all of a sudden there's a full band song or harder rocking song. I don't think it's ever too heavy, but so that just I didn't like the flow of the album, but other than that, I loved it. So obviously I've heard several of these songs before. The ones I weren't familiar with, which was quite the majority of them, I enjoyed. I just like the way Neil does his acoustic songs, his storytelling. The tone of his voice is just all very enhancing and entrancing at the same time. You have to be in kind of a mood, I do anyway, I have to be in a certain mood to listen to Neil Young. I was in the perfect mood to listen to Neil Young yesterday when I actually listened to this, and it was exactly what I was looking for out of this album. So I think if you're a casual Neil Young fan like me, you're going to enjoy this one. If you're a diehard Neil Young fan and you want those extra, songs on there, you're going to love the idea of this album, and you're going to love the extra stuff. So that being said, feel free to comment as always, like, share, subscribe, and until next time, we'll see you.